Hey, everybody, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time listening to one of our clips about the Seller Velocity Conference, which once again, May 1st and 2nd in New York. And one of our wonderful sponsors, thank you so much for sponsoring, is Viably. We're speaking with Liz today. And thank you for joining me, first of all.
Yeah, of course. So thrilled to be here, Chris. And hey, everyone, we are so excited to see you guys at the event. May is going to be here before we know it.
And it'll be warmer than it is right now,
Yes,
wherever
thank
you
goodness.
are, most of you, yeah. Except for those of you down under or in New Zealand, right, in the lower hemisphere. And how long have you been at Viably, by the way? I meant to ask you that earlier.
Yeah, good question. So I have been at Viably, gosh, now you're making me do math. I've been at Viably now just shy of 2 years. It
Okay.
feels like much longer. And I only say that because we used to all work together previously at another tech venture. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm having to do the math in my head between
That's the
our
last
previous
math.
work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all good, all
Yeah.
good.
Yep. That's the last math question we'll talk about
Yes.
today. Except for maybe, pain points you hear about from Amazon
Yeah.
brands, customers who complain about stuff. It might not even be stuff that you do, but sellers like to be vocal about what they need help on, what they're hearing other people complain about. When you go to conferences like ours, especially a smaller, a little bit more intimate one like ours, what kinds of questions do you anticipate? And then kind of the part two piece would be, do you hear the same things over and over and you've already got a reservoir of success stories that you can kind of, hey, we've already helped somebody with something
Yeah.
like this and it impacted their business in a very positive way.
Yeah, sure. I think those are all good points. So I think one of the things that we hear the most, both at these events, but also in just some of the conversations that we're having day in and day out with sellers, is just really around cash flow management. So
Okay.
we hear from folks who are coming into like kind of sticky situations around how they have been managing their inventory, or they've been hit with like pretty significant high operational costs, and they've
Mm-hmm.
got really grand plans about what they want to do to move forward and grow their business, and how can they do that. So I think those are some of the big ones that we often hear. And I mean, we've heard a lot about the increasing in fees on Amazon
Sure.
always, what they want to do from like ad spend, and kind of navigating the challenges of like how do I position my spend between that area and launching a new product, or just simply restocking my inventory. So that kind of covers the gamut at a broad clip, Chris, but I think that's a lot
Yeah.
of what we come up against.
Yeah, in terms of cash management, do you find that people are setting aside rainy day funds to deal with problems that either they anticipated but didn't handle it right the first time or didn't expect it would be as big of a problem? Or is
Mhm.
it more like they're worried about, ad spend and we needed more money for ad spend, inventory fees? I mean, we all know that
Yeah,
fees are a hot topic. They come around and fees
totally.
go up and people are always worried about that. So they might plan for that, long ago, but does it end up being worse? And do they ask you if you have quick fix solutions or is it just kind of a long tail strategy?
Yeah. So I think often what we're hearing is folks think that they have an idea of what their cash flow is, but maybe they're looking to have that better like sleep well at night number and that reserve of
Mm-hmm.
cash flow for the rainy day. So I think we do
Right.
have some folks who are planning ahead and already have that consideration built up. I also think that we've spoken with some sellers, especially at events, and some who we've just started partnering with, who have
Mm-hmm.
started to see that success and want to keep growing on Amazon. So they might not know where to start in terms of building that number and how they can create a really secure reserve and cushion for their business. So I think that's
Okay.
one part of it for sure. And I think kind of along the question that you had asked, and some of those topics, we also have folks who have been managing their cash flow through something as manual as a spreadsheet. And so we speak with folks at a point when they're really developing this opportunity to be a bit more strategic in how they are planning ahead in terms of what they want to attain for growth. Again, maybe that is upping their ad spend, or
Right.
again, investing in more inventory. So just getting that baseline of simply understanding how money is actually moving in, and more importantly, how money is moving out of their business to better determine profitability.
Right. And how do you think it impacts like product development? Because we're coming out of,
Mhm.
hopefully I can say out of entirely an inflationary period where people were a bit more conservative in terms of product development, launching new SKUs,
Mhm.
I don't know, coming up with an accessory to a product that's already selling well, for example. Do you think that's loosening up a little bit and people are kind of finally exploring a bit more, investing a bit more in product development, or taking that plunge that they maybe weren't doing in 2023?
I think that people are starting to feel a little more comfortable in taking that plunge. I think, especially if they have a set of products that has been really successful that they can continue to lean on. I think they are more open to exploring and seeing where they can securely dip their toes into new
Right.
waters.
Right.
So I think that that is something that we're starting to see unfold. Is I've had my groups that I'm confident with. What can I do more of? And really do that product development and research and kind of go full force on that.
Yeah. And even in the work that we do and the brands that we talk to, I've noticed an uptick in concern around competition. Everyone's always
Yeah.
looking at competitors, but now it's a mainstay of
Mhm.
conversations we have in terms of cost, in terms of profitability, cash management, pretty much everything. They're looking
Right.
over their shoulder a lot. Um, some of that's healthy, and maybe some of it's not so healthy. But I'd imagine you have a lot of strategy calls where that comes up as well.
Yeah, and I think in terms of from a competitive standpoint, where we've spoken to folks, and this kind of goes back to your question about launching and doing more with product
Mm-hmm.
development, in terms of edging out of the competition, that's really where that's becoming a key factor is, all right, I know this is where I've been kind of head to head. What can I do to edge past them? So I definitely think that that plays a part in them being really fiscally conservative, but also taking on good debt to help them be able to make the
Right.
appropriate move so that they can move past and do a bit more.
Yeah. And when you go to these events and you talk to sellers, do you ever think like the day before, oh, tomorrow we're going to get tons of questions about blank, and then it doesn't materialize and you're sort of surprised? And it makes you think, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it makes you think, are people not thinking about something that they should be? And that's why we're not getting asked more about it. Does that happen a lot?
That's a good
I don't know if
point.
I don't want to put you on the spot with
Yeah.
examples, but I only ask
No.
you because that happens to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think in terms of thinking that we're going to get asked certain questions at an event and maybe not getting asked those, I think it's more, we get more specific questions around like, it's more like fiscal capabilities, or
Mm-hmm.
I think the transparently one of the funnier questions that we get asked is like on the spot, how much can you fund me for? And I am not an underwriter, so I
Give
think
me money.
right. So it's
Yeah.
less about like we thought they were going to ask this question and that didn't come to fruition, and it's more about
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the underwriter, so I can't give you that deal on the spot. So I
Right.
actually think rather than being prepared for questions, what I tend to see a lot of it at events is really an educational component around what are considerations that I should have in terms of considering taking on external financing, or what are you different to, or how do you compare to the other guy that I've been using?
Right.
So again,
Right.
it's less about the questions that we expected. It's more going in equipped to have an educational conversation around things like, are you actually thinking about your cash flow? Are you thinking about that sleep well at night number? Or what are
Right.
you doing in terms of funding, and where might we be able to kind of partner together? So not necessarily the answer to your original question, but that's
That's
kind of more
okay.
the conversations we have.
Those types of questions lead to more questions, which keeps the
Totally.
dialogue going and
Yeah.
and will eventually cover everything that everyone's
Yeah.
concerned about. I mean, I like the sleep well at night number part because I'm constantly talking to people about having a rainy day fund. Sometimes with
Yes.
in our world, they show up, we didn't think we were anywhere near getting our account suspended, but we got an email in rapid fire succession. We went from your account is being reviewed to you'll be hearing from account health reps on a phone call, which happens 24 hours later. And by the end of that week, their account's down. So it could be a matter of days, not necessarily hours anymore like the old days,
Yeah.
but days with maybe only 1.5 warning shots before they lose their account.
Totally.
And that's always one of the first questions, whether or not they say, well, we can't afford your fee or something that gets in the way of having them take over, have us take over immediately. The larger question is, was there a rainy day fund that was kind of sort of there, but not really? It was there and they had to tap into it sooner than they thought, or they never even thought about having a rainy day fund because they haven't been suspended before.
Position,
so they just
right.
assumed, consciously or not, that it would never happen, which you can't do.
Yes. So, and I think it's funny that you bring that up, because in my former life, in being in IT, there was a lot of like, oh, this will never happen to me. And I think that's something that I've been able to carry over in e-commerce life, is like, you have to be prepared for the unexpected because you simply don't know. So that's where I'm with you. We preach, you have your sleep well at night number. Make sure that you've got that rainy day cushion, because you never know when something is going to be compromised, or you never know when there's an opportunity that's super hot that you need to strike at. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris.
And take it seriously, don't half-heartedly, well, we had a meeting about it and we'll kick it down the road a couple months. Or a couple quarters because we have other initiatives. I mean, not that the other initiatives aren't important too, but it's not the type of thing you can, put off indefinitely. Any other words of wisdom, words of advice based on conversations you've had, let's say for the first 2 months of this year, that you foresee being continuing conversations for the next few months?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones, and I feel like it's always a topic of conversation, is how can sellers begin to like diversify their portfolio and explore omni-channel a bit more? The sellers that we've been talking to, there's a lot of considerations about expanding to Walmart if they aren't there already. I think that's on the radar for a lot of folks. And then one of the other big ones, we can't deny it, is TikTok Shop. There's a lot of folks who are looking at everybody's on their phone. I can buy now. I got quickly influenced. It's a couple of clicks. So there's a lot of adjacencies and opportunities in that market. So I think that's one of the big ones. It's more the word of advice of explore now your expansion options. Don't be late to this game because it's hot.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm primarily an Amazon consultant, but when I'm hearing stuff about it, that it's something to consider or pay attention to, because I mean, the Walmart conversation's been around for a while. TikTok Shop, at least in my circles, my world, TikTok Shop is really a recent phenomenon where that's coming up in more conversations I have with not just brands, but consultants or agency owners. And that's why, that's one reason why we do seller velocity, is so that you don't have to just depend on LinkedIn posts or Facebook or whatever you're following in your feed. You can actually have an in-person conversation, whether it's in a networking session or listen to a talk about it. We always bring one expert or more, if possible, from every walk of life within the Amazon space and within the brand management space. And that's one reason the content's, compelling. I think this is our sixth year doing seller velocity now.
It's amazing.
So,
we're
it's
so
hard to
excited
believe.
to be a part of it. Yeah, it's really,
I'm glad you are.
Like a lifetime.
Yeah. So anyone listening to this, if you're already going, you'll speak with Liz there. If you're on the fence, you have questions, let us know, and we'll get you in touch with Viably. And thanks again to Viably for sponsoring. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Thanks so much for the time, guys, and see you all there in May.
See you soon. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.